It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. He was born and raised in a very religious Hindu family in India. He came to the United States for his graduate studies, completing them at the University of California, Berkeley. For the last 25 years, he has lectured on Hinduism at schools, colleges, churches, and other institutions. He has written two novels, The First Hindu and Undesired Duty. He has also written several plays that have been staged in the Portland area. In a previous talk given to HGP, he mentioned three spheres of influence that have shaped his life: art, meditation, and darshan. His presentation today explores Hinduism's humanistic foundations and how its teachings have guided his personal search for truth. Please join me in giving a warm HGP welcome to Harsh Arora.
Good morning, friends. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to present this, my favorite subject. Every time I speak, I learn a lot. So I'm looking forward to learning today from your questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a very high-level overview of what Hinduism is. Then I'll tell you how it has helped me in my personal search for truth. And then we come to humanism, how it relates to humanism, what are the common elements. As you can see from the very first page that I have here, Hinduism has a lot of gods or deities, as we call them. And that itself tells you that people have choices, they have options. And onus is on the person, individual, to select who they revere, they learn about, they can mimic what they have done, they can, and lead a better life if they want to. So there are no set commandments, and I'm going to go into detail, but let's just go to high level. First thing which is very important is that the word Hindu is a geographic identity. So in, somewhere here, so here is Pakistan now, and there's a river here called Sindhu River. And that was the kind of the border between India and Iran, Persia, as called. And if you met Iranians, they can't pronounce S very well. They pronounce it as Hindu, okay? And they had if you know a little bit about their religion was Zoroastrian, and they were more monotheistic. And on the west end of the Sindhu River, or Hindu River, as they called it, and east side were the Indians or Hindus. And they had different rituals, different gods and all. They didn't know what to call them. So they started calling them Hindus. So this of Sindhu River, they call them Hindus. So it's basically, they started as a geographic identity. And it was, of all the religious books around the world, the only religious book that uses the word Hindu is Avesta, which is a Zoroastrian book, okay? None of the Hindu books use a word Hindu, okay? So it's given by others, and we've adopted, we've gone along with that. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing to know is, this is from visualcapitalist.com, and this is the economic history of the world. You see, 2,000 years ago here, India formed 40% of the GDP of the world, okay? And obviously you can see how it has shrunk over time, okay? This is where the Muslim invasion started, okay? And as that happened, it started shrinking, and real shrinking comes when the British took over India. So the point here is there was a time 2,000 years ago, it was all 100% Hindus lived in India. And they knew how to generate money, and GDP was very high. People lived very well, and education standard was very high and much higher than in 1947 when India got independence from British. Okay. Now, another thing to see, this is from the Pew Research, that in the US, if you were to take income, income per family, Hindus come second after Jews overall. This is so Hindus, given the right environment, which is in the US, Hindus have done very well. Okay. Excuse me? This is old. This is, I think, 2014. I couldn't get anything later than that. Maybe you'll find it, and you'll know that there are a lot of Hindus that are CEOs of very large companies, including Microsoft and Google, and then many others have had or are, okay, or Hindus. Now, as a very high level, the way I see it is, Hinduism is like an umbrella organization, okay? And within that umbrella are several, we call them sampradayas. It's kind of like a sect, okay? You can call like Vaishnavas or Shakts or even monotheists. You could be a monotheist and still be a Hindu. Okay, there is there's one of the, and I'm going to talk about that later, a philosophical background of Charvaks. Okay, you know the book Kam Sutra? Kam Sutra, everybody knows Kam Sutra, right? Kam Sutra was written by a guy called Vatsayan, who was a monotheist, who was a Charvak, and still it's considered a Hindu book. Okay. So there are, so each of these, like Shaks, Shaivites, they each could be considered a religion. Because the way I see religion, the difference between religion and dharma, we'll talk about that. We don't call it religion. Religion is not used in India, but religion, as I see, is a terminology that brings people together into one form of belief or one type of rituals. So each could be quasi-religion. Hinduism is not a religion. And we call it, we use the word dharma. And dharma is also used by the Buddhists. And I'll go into more detail as we go what dharma is for us, okay? This is how there are different ways that Hindus reach the divinity, I would say. We don't have the concept of God per se, but the divinity, fire worship, and that's the kind of house I was brought up in. My mother was a big believer in idol worship, and this is how she would sit in front of idols and pray. My father was more into fire worship. I, being the eldest son, I had to do both. And that's what confused me a little bit. And I've talked about it before, that's what led me to say, well, what is really true? And that's been my life journey. And I have studied religion like I studied engineering, okay? I stopped believing in belief when I was in high school, okay? So in my way, is I either know or I don't. I'm willing to say I don't know. But belief is not in my terminology. I don't use that word. Oftentimes, people understand something by saying what it is not. So I just want to, as an example, take this story, from Genesis of Abraham, who the God came to Abraham and said, kill your son, Isaac, right? He asks no questions. He doesn't even tell his wife. He takes Isaac up to the mountain and gets ready to kill him, and at the end, obviously God came to rescue his son and all that. In one of the most very important book in Hinduism is Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita, the context is there's a battle. It's a beginning of a battle between two cousins. Okay, one side of the battle is Arjuna, a warrior, a hero, on a chariot, and his charioteer is Krishna, who's supposed to be the god. Okay. Now the warrior, just before the the battle were to start, he says, "Oh, I don't want to fight." He gives up his weapons. I don't want to fight. And God says, "No, you got to fight." And he says, "No." And the conversation, it's all symbolic, right? The conversation between them goes on for 2 hours. So in other words, God is giving him reasons to fight, and he's giving back reasons not to fight. So see the difference between Abraham and Isaac. So Hindu religion, at least in Bhagavad Gita, allows us to question God, what God's command is. Okay. Then we also have another epic called Ramayana. Okay, where Ram is the hero. Okay, it's also made God he's at the beginning of he was actually a king's son. Okay, and he was going to be coronated as a king. Okay, and a couple of days before, his father says, "No, you're not going to be the king. Go and live in the forest for 14 years. He asks no questions. He just packs up his bags and go to the jungle. So just see the difference between the father's command is more important than the God's command. So you could argue with God, but not with your father. I mean, that's a message that these two very big epics, very important epics give to us. This lower part here, I take it from Truth and Religion. The distinction, this overall, the monotheistic religions on the left, they are objective truths, like the command. Commandment is given, it's an objective truth, okay? The Hindu seeker way is more like a taste, okay? Now you have different foods, right? And something tastes good to you. So you pick that, okay? And you live your life with that, okay? You do not, everybody doesn't have to like steak and live on steak forever, right? You pick up what you like. And so that's the distinction I make overall between monotheistic religions, which have objective truth, to tasteful truth in the Hindu way of doing things. The Hindu civilization, we say as I have read through, the primary focus has been endless search for truth. I'm not the only one, but you basically, it was endless search for truth. And I call it an open architecture platform. What does that mean? You remember that the time that PCs came, Apple came out with a PC, you can take it, the whole thing, right? Software, hardware, everything in one, okay? But the IBM took something from Microsoft, something from here, there, they hodgepodge, they made IBM PC, that anybody could manufacture. I mean, Hindu religion to me is like a IBM PC. You can take pieces of it and create your own truth, okay? And what I'm going to do is, now my second part of the presentation is to say how I used it, okay? So over the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to my God. It's only my God. I'm not going to use any dogma. I'm not going to use any belief. It'll be purely on reason. It is loosely based on the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is the book I mentioned, one of the most important books. And also a book. There was a giant philosopher called Shankaracharya in 7th century AD, who wrote this book. It's not important. I'm just giving that it's not originally mine. I have taken pieces from this and developed my own thinking, okay? Now, let's go through the logic, okay? We have the universe, we have the cosmos in front of us, we have everything, and we see it from our eyes, right? I is the seer, while universe is the seen, right? Very obvious, logically. I and the universe are different, they are different, right? Seer and seen are different, obviously, and seen changes while seer remains the same. I remains the same while things change, right? Easy. Okay, let's go to the next page. Now, we have a mind behind it, right? The information from the eye goes to our mind, and we get to learn what the eye has seen. Our mind is aware of our eye, right? Mind knows that eye is there. Mind is the seer, while eye, an instrument of seeing, is its object. I hope it's seer and its object are different. What the mind perceived changes while the mind remains the same. Okay? Eye perceives differences and all that, right? Okay. Now let's go to the next step. We have consciousness. Now, consciousness, we have a mind, we have, all this stuff going on, but I say, oh, I know what it is, right? So that I is that consciousness. It's, we all have consciousness. Consciousness is aware of the contents of the mind. It's changing emotions and thoughts. When I'm depressed, I say, oh, I'm depressed because my mind is depressed. Our mind now becomes the scene, and consciousness somehow never, we can't see that consciousness. I'm going to go very much detail in this consciousness business, okay, which is heart of Hindu tenets. Okay, now, having said all that, set the stage, let's see the overall picture between consciousness and the universe. Without consciousness, we cannot sense or perceive the universe, okay? Consciousness creates the universe for us. Consciousness witnesses all we see and experience all the time. What we see and experience changes while consciousness remains the same. Consciousness doesn't change, we always. And the last one is consciousness is like the light. And this is something that I'm going to go further. Just hold on for this. I'm going to give examples of this. So we have this. And on the next page, all I do is replace the word consciousness with the word God. See what happens. So without God, we cannot sense or perceive. That's what a religious person will think, right? Without God, we can't sense or perceive the universe. God creates the universe for us. God witnesses all we see and experience, and sometimes, rewards us or punishes us. What we see and experience changes while God remains the same. God is like the light, and this is what I'm going to talk about next. So I just wanted to give you a picture that how I reached my God. To me, consciousness is the God for me, and how I reached it using logic. Okay. Now, having said all this, now I'm going to go a little bit deeper into consciousness, because that's very heart of Hinduism. Okay. Overall, there are four prevailing views, and none of these have been scientifically proven. But over the last 10 years, there have been so much research going on in the scientific field. Neuroscientists as well as philosophy departments have been talking about consciousness. In India, consciousness has been discussed for thousands of years. Okay, and like the Eskimos have a lot of words for snow, and we have only one word. In India, there are several words for consciousness: Chetan, Chetana, Atma, Turya. There are a lot of words for it for different situations. Okay, but overall in the world, there are four prevailing views now. Neuroscientists. So if you ask a neuroscientist, he'll say, well, we have these neurons in the brain, and they interact and they give rise to consciousness. They haven't proven it, but they say it gives rise to it. Okay. Then we have Descartes' body-mind duality thing. So Descartes said, we have like a ghost in there, which is a mind, right? In the body, and they somehow interact with each other. Nobody has been shown how they can interact with each other. How, if I want to raise my hand, I think, and how is that information goes. Nobody has shown that scientifically. Then we have panpsychists. They say, well, consciousness is everywhere. Everywhere, every particle and all that. And then we have the Indian way, the non-duality framework, or non-local. I don't know how many of you have read the latest book by Dan Brown, The Secret of Secrets. It is about consciousness. It's a part of the plot is between the number one neuroscientist and the non-local. And this non-local, I think I have this mentioned in the next page. No, even another page. Okay, anyway. There is an Institute of Noetic Sciences in California, which I've been a member of. So they have done a lot of research in consciousness. They are doing it now. I have been a member of that. And even 2 days ago, they had a webinar that I attended on mapping the invisible you, which is mapping the consciousness. Okay, so they are doing a lot of research on consciousness, and one of the main character in Dan Brown's book is actually a member of Institute of Noetic Sciences that have been doing a lot of research on consciousness. So anyway, we may talk more about that later. We are all stuck up in these three views of ourselves: body, mind, or I'm calling it Turiya is one of the words for consciousness, but think about it as consciousness. If somebody asks a Hindu, a seer, what happens after I die? He will say, well, who's asking the question? What it means is that if you think you are a body, yes, you're going to die. Body is going to die. Whether you cremate or you bury, it's going to perish. But if you're a mind, yeah, it's going to stop functioning also. But if you have consciousness, you live forever. That's what Hindus believe in it. And also, there's a very interesting incident in this book called Ramayana around the end. See, Ram is the god, and his very big disciple or follower is Hanuman, the monkey god you may have seen. And the god asks him, what am I to you? If God were to ask a disciple or a follower, what am I to you? Hanuman says, well, when I view you, when I experience you with my body, I'm your servant. They call the word das. But if I experience you with my mind, I'm part of you. But if I experience you with my consciousness, you are within me. I am you. I become you. Okay? And that tells you a lot about how Hindus think about these three stages you think about. So what are the benefits of this? We call it compassion for ourselves. Sat chit ana. My mom, till she was alive, I never greeted her by hi, hello, good morning, namaste. No, it was Satchidanand. And what Satchidanand is a very basic element in Hinduism. It stands for three words: existence, consciousness, bliss. And essentially what it says is if you know the existence of consciousness, chit in this case, the word chit is used, you're in bliss all the time. So you can, regardless of the condition you are in, you could be in bliss if you know your consciousness. And maybe we can talk about some meditation techniques to get to it. But I mean, I see that Carl Jung's deep, that self that he talks about deep within archetypes is basically consciousness, the Hindu consciousness. And I have talked about Institute of Noetic Sciences that have been doing a lot of research on consciousness. J. Krishnamurti talks about choiceless awareness. So that is what it is. We have a word for it in Sanskrit called sakshi. Sakshi means witness. You live your life. You be the witness of yourself. You're always watching what you're doing. You are not your mind. You are not your body. You are that witness within yourself. And very interestingly, this Ivan Antic, I read one of his books, The Physics of Consciousness. He's written 11 books. He's a Serbian guy, never went to India. I don't know, maybe he went to India. I'm not sure. But he's written 11 books on existence, consciousness, bliss. Okay? Physics of Consciousness is available in the Beaverton Library. I read that. A fascinating book to understand consciousness. So that's about compassion for ourselves, that we all, how can we be in bliss all the time? Then compassion for others. Thou art that, tattvamasi. So in this case, I'm using the word subjectivity. When we realize that everyone's essential self subjectivity is a reflection of the Brahman, so our subjectivity we call Atman, and the subjectivity of the universe we call Brahman. And if it's a reflection, if each subjectivity is a reflection of the universal subjectivity, everybody is about the same. Everybody has the same thing. So we can treat everybody the right way. Schopenhauer, one of my favorite philosophers, was the first major Western philosopher who read Upanishads, the basic Hindu philosophy books. And incidentally, trivia is that he had a poodle. And the name of the poodle was Atman, okay, which is consciousness in Sanskrit. his book, The World as Will and Representation, has a lot of information about Vedanta, which is the philosophy behind the Upanishads. I've twisted this, from the Descartes thing, I think, therefore I am. I think I am, therefore I think. First step is the consciousness. And consciousness gives you the thinking. And which is very close to existence before essence. You remember, Sartre wrote it in his book, Being and Nothing. Okay. Let's now move to humanism. We have time, yeah. I have to bring in one other favorite of my philosopher writers, Tolstoy. He said, "Don't tell me about your religion. Let me see your religion in action." I've been talking about religion, unfortunately, till now. Now I'm going to tell you what the actions, Hindus, how they have behaved in the past. Okay. Now, oops. I went. Religious humanism, the Hindu way. To avoid religious persecution over the years, in the last 2,000 years, people from around the world have come to India. And the civilization of diversity, which I think Hindus are, sheltered them. Starting from Jewish people, when the fall of King Solomon's temple, some of them came to India, and still 1.3 million Jews lived there. Netanyahu, when he came to India a couple of years ago, he said India perhaps is the only country where Jews have not been persecuted. They have lived very well for the last 2,000 years. Then Syriac Christians came in the 3rd century. And right now there are 30 million Christians live in India. Zoroastrian, I talked about Zoroastrian religion in Persia. When Muslims came there and started persecuting and converting them, so whole of Persia was converted in 15 to 20 years. Entire Persia was converted from Zoroastrian to Muslim religion. Okay, few thousand, I think about 8,000, nobody knows, but in 7th, 8th century, some of them came to India. Okay, they're called Parsis there. They're the only Zoroastrians in the world that are surviving. Okay, and they have the highest per capita income. They have flourished in India. Okay, they were sheltered by Indian kings at that time in 8th century, and they've lived ever since. Okay, they've had, Tatars is one of the richest family in the country, and they are basically Zoroastrians. Okay, they've done very well. Then Dalai Lama. When the Chinese took over Tibet, Dalai Lama with few thousand people came to India. He still lives there. Okay, he was given shelter, 150,000 of them. I think it's less than that because a lot of them have moved out. Actually, there are a lot in Portland. There are a couple of thousand at least in Portland. They have a Tibetan center. Most of them, I've been there several times, and most of them were born in India and now live in the US. But anyway, there are a lot of Buddhists living in India now.
What does it say at the bottom of that slide?
But request part of them and live as one path among many. I'll get to that. Then let's talk about Muslims. There are over 200 million Muslims living in India. If they were a country, that would be the 6th largest country in the world. So they are very big. How it started, I'm going to give a little bit of history. You know about the tussle between Sunnis and Shias. Sunnis were the ones who said most capable person should be the head of Islam. Shias thought, oh no, it's the blood, Muhammad's blood, the family should rule. Abu Bakr, because after Muhammad died, Abu Bakr was the guy who took over. He was a Sunni. And initially there was dialogue between Sunni, Shias, and all that. But then somebody was killed. Hussein was killed. He was the bloodline from a family member of what are Shias now, okay? Killed. And then they've been fighting ever since, Shias and Sunni. I mean, Iran and Iraq fought for 10 years. Syria, millions of people were killed because it was Shia and Sunni tussle. Some of the family of Muhammad took shelter in India, in what is called Multan. Its borders is the first part of India, or the westmost part of India. And then, because the Sunnis didn't like that, they started attacking India. Okay, initially a lot of Muslims came, they came all over, they migrated and they lived happily. But then came the intruders, invaders rather. And India was under Islamic rule for centuries. And 90% of Muslims in India are all converted. They are ex-Hindus who have been converted forcibly. There were two ways of doing it. What the jizya law they have is that the non-Muslims have to pay higher taxes. But why is it, I've thought about why is it that Iran was converted within 15, 20 years? Why did India? Hindus are still there, millions, quite a bit. And first of all, Indians or Hindus were very rich. They could afford higher taxes. They said, well, I'm not going to convert, I'm going to pay higher taxes. But the poor ones, no money, they converted. So even now, the average income of a Muslim in India is much, much lower than Hindus or any other. I mean, actually, Hindus are not the richest. The richest are the Parsis, the Zoroastrians, are clearly the richest. Then the Jain religion, you may have heard of Jain religion. Jainis are the second highest. I mean, they are very rich. Then I think comes Hindu, and then Sikhs and Buddhists and all that are others. But Muslims are the lowest rung, and because most of the poor people, and even today, I went to high school. It's a government high school, not a very, where, not very rich people went. And it was 1 mile away from largest concentration of Muslims in Delhi. I didn't have any Muslim in my class. So I don't know where they went to school or the education. So, I mean, in one way, if you see the education standard correlates with the money they make, right? Parsis or the Zoroastrians are richest and they are very educated. And Muslims are not educated and they are on the lowest rung, wise. So anyway, but they have grown. I mean, at the time of independence, India got independence in 1947. There were 10% Muslims at that time and 85% Hindus in India. Today, the best estimate is 15% of the population is Muslim. So they've gone up by 50%. Hindus have shrunk to 80%, and then we have other religions, obviously, minorities, religions.
The percentage of Hindus?
Right now,
Yeah.
It's a little bit less than 80%. 80. Yeah. The birth rate of Hindus have reached that 2.1, that doesn't go up or down. But Muslims have close to 3. right now. So they're growing still. And Hindus have been shrinking. And now, I put this up, Hindu humanism versus secular humanist. As much as I know, maybe people here know more about the secular humanism, but I think that the core qualities of Hindu humanism, spiritual humanism, the divine in every person, while secular humanism is a naturalistic humanism and human values without God, as we heard. The method used in a near realization and ethics for Hindus, and reason, science, and ethics for secular humanism, most of our members. And goal for a Hindu is moksha. Moksha is basically to know myself. That's to know the divinity within ourselves, I would say. And goal for a secular humanism could be flourishing and justice. And here the shared values. And bottom line to me is Hindu humanism says, you're divine, realize it. Secular humanism, you're human, make the most of it. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much, Harsh, for sharing with us the pluralism within the Hindu faith. It was such an interdisciplinary presentation. You had elements of history in there, philosophy of the mind, existentialism, and even literature. What I found particularly edifying was how you describe the dialectic between Krishna and Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. But what was most impressive for me was how you incorporated your vast knowledge into a very personalized approach to the faith as opposed to organized religion. We'll take a first question on Zoom, which has just been typed in, so I'm just going to read it out. What's the explanation behind the Hindu god pantheon tending to be defined by the triad of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva?
Yeah. Those, to me, are the principles. Principles around how we should live, and how we tackle with things. So supposing I'm working on a project, okay, and I want to, there's a thing I have and I want to improve it. What am I going to do? I'm going to say, well, whatever is working, I'm going to keep. Whatever is not working, I'm going to kill it. And I'm going to find something new to replace what is there. Those are the three principles that Hinduism says, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh or Shiv. Creative principle, sustaining principle, and killing principle, whatever, okay. So these are the three things. Now, I want to also say, go a little bit deeper into it. Hinduism has unlike other religions, like, if you say Christianity, you have about, if you take even Old Testament, there are 15, 16 books. Muslim have Hadith and Quran, couple of books. Hinduism has a library of huge books, okay? But we divide it, I at least divide it into two parts. And I'm going to answer this question more deeply there. We have first set of books called Shruti books. And Shruti, the word means heard. So these seers used to sit down in meditative forms, and whatever they heard, they composed them, okay? And the Vedas that we have, which are probably the oldest religious books in the world, are all heard, Shrutis, okay? And to me, that's the religion. And that ended with Bhagavad Gita. But there are a lot of books that are written after that. like Purans and even some of the epics. They are called Smriti books. And Smriti means from memory. So people have, that is composed by the people. So the Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh or Shiv come into the latter part. Okay. To me, those are more cultural. It's not religious, it's cultural. So if a person goes to the temple and the priest says, oh, put flowers here, put something here, and he follows, that's cultural. It's not really religious. There's nothing come out of it, at least the way I see it. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh are more of cultural stuff, and that gives us a way to behave, to deal with issues. How do I improve myself? Those three principles. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. Let's take our first question at the Friendly House.
Yes, I have been under the impression that Hinduism, like Judaism, is something you are born into, whereas Christianity or Islam or Buddhism is something you can confess, so that anyone could become such a thing.
Right.
But I'm not entirely clear from your presentation if you agree that Hinduism is something you are born into versus something that you could choose.
But, you know, the traditional Hindus do think that you have to be born. In fact, a lot of people, once they move out, they change the religion and they want to come back, they say, no, you're gone now. You're out, okay? So you have to be born as a Hindu to remain a Hindu. That's true. But lately, people are changing. And they're saying, well, we have 200 million people, or Muslims, a lot of them are actually converted. And they do want to come back. One of the things that's happening is that they learn as people, with media and books available and all that, people are learning about their religion. And if they like another religion, they want to convert. And they are converting, and people are, even Hindu institutions are converting them. Some time back, they didn't. A Muslim came and said, I want to be a Hindu. They said, no, forget it. You had to be born. And once you've changed, you're gone forever. It is true. So, yeah. I don't know what my presentation made you feel that, but it's changing, but it's been, the tradition is that, yeah, you have to be born as a Hindu. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Let's take our second question on Zoom, and it comes from Gail. Go ahead, Gail.
Hello. Yeah, I was surprised to learn that there are over 1 million Jewish people in India. I've been there for, it looks like a long time. What is the status of the current Jews in India, and how do they relate to the Hindu community and so forth?
Oh, they are living very well. They've done well. In fact, there's a very interesting movie. What's the name of the movie? Shalom Bollywood. Shalom Bollywood. You should see that I think it's on Netflix. The fact that, when the movie started in India, okay, in the early part of 20th century, Hindus and Muslim women were not allowed to act. Most of the actresses were Jewish, okay, during the beginning of the movie era in India. And there's still a lot of Jews in the movie industry, okay? But overall, I think they are doing very well. Lately, I've heard that some of them are moving back to Israel. as Israel is taking them. They are very well educated. They are economically doing well. They are in the movie industry. That's the impression. I mean, that's what I know. That I've known so many actors, actresses who are Jewish, in India.
Thank you. Let's take our second question at the friendly house. Question number 2.
Just a simple one, and maybe you said this when I was outside. Anand and Anand, you mentioned bliss. Yeah. Is the
Yeah.
is bliss Anand?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
He's a step ahead. See, in India, most of the names have meaning. He's 2 steps ahead of me. My name, Harsh, means just happiness. But he's bliss. He's bliss. He's way ahead of me.
And here I thought my hair was my only asset. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. We'll take our third question on Zoom. I'm going to read it out. It's from Al Christians. Why does your religion stop short of the unconscious mind, which might be of greater importance than the conscious mind?
Yeah, good question. Why doesn't it? I don't know. But unconscious is, see, so when are we unconscious? Okay, totally. We are in 2 kinds. One is in deep sleep. When we are in deep sleep, we have no idea, because we say in India, there are 4 stages that we live in. Waking stage, dreaming stage, and deep sleep, Waking, no, it is 4. Which one? Oh, I'm missing something.
The silence from which they
Making, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, the 4th stage, it's called Turiya. Okay? Turiya means 4th. And 4th is the stage, is deep sleep. We have no dreams, nothing. Okay? The way they say is that is when consciousness is there. We are still conscious. Consciousness is there. It's not conscious of something. That's how we put it. Okay? And also when somebody is in coma, that's the only time they are unconscious, and we say, well, consciousness is there. Because consciousness, according to Hindus, is everywhere. There is a very, it was written long time ago, 2,500 years ago. There is a Upanishad called Isha Upanishad. I've talked about Upanishad. One of the hymns from that is Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yatkinchar Jagat Tyam Jagat. What it means is, in Hindi, in English, is that Isha, the consciousness, resides in everything. So, and then it says there are 2 types of worlds. One is a moving world, one is a stationary world. So, the moving world, we have consciousness, but consciousness is also in the chair. The non-moving world also has consciousness. That's the way it is. So there is nothing that is unconscious, according to Hindus. Okay? Yes.
Okay, we'll take our third question from the friendly house. So question number 3.
I wanted to build on that question of bliss. What is this bliss stuff anyway? Bliss to me means I am so darn happy that I don't have to pay attention to any of that. That's my bliss.
Yeah.
And so I don't. Why would I continue to bother to do things or take care of things, or I'm in bliss? So, what is? Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, I'll give you my experience from. So I've been a crazy runner. Okay, I've run all my life. I've run several marathons, and I've bruised up my knees. I had a surgery of my knee, okay? Orthoscopic, meniscus tear. And after the surgery, the surgeon gave me 2 bottles. He said, well, take this pills from this bottle every 4 hours when you have pain. And the other one, when it's really painful, take the other pills from the other bottle. I'd never opened either of the bottles, okay? I said, when I was in that state of mind of bliss, I said, oh, the pain is in my body. I'm not, I'm in bliss. My knee is paining because of the surgery. I'm in bliss, okay? Never opened a bottle. That's an experience I have. I don't know in general what to say about it, but basically saying you want to be in bliss regardless of the condition you are in, okay? And how to read, it's kind of getting to be divine, okay? Let me give you instructions, kind of a meditation thing. There's a treatise, the oldest treatise on meditation written in India in probably 2nd century AD. It's called Yoga Sutra by a guy called Patanjali. You can Google search and get the meaning of it. And it says that the very first line of that says, Chitta Vritti Nirodh. And Chitta means consciousness or psyche. Vritti is agitation and Nirodh is suppression. So the whole point of reaching the bliss is to suppress the agitation of our mind. Okay? Now, how do you do it? You can Google search, go to the book, they have an 8-step process. Okay? But I'll tell you an easier way, a 3-step process. Okay? The first step in Sanskrit we'll call maun. Maun is silence. Okay? Silence. So sit down silently. I'm going to give you a 3-step process. Easy. No, third one is most difficult. First one, silently sit in a comfortable place, chair, and etc. Okay. You will realize that you have this information, there's thoughts going on, right? Random thoughts. What are these? Where do they come from? Can you predict them ever? What will be your next thought? No, you cannot, right? They just come. They're random. So be a witness to those thoughts. Don't relate to the thought. They are not yours because you can't predict it. You didn't make them. Somebody else is making them. Who are you? You just watch them. You'll be the witness to those and slowly concentrate more on the gap between the 2 thoughts. See, you have random thoughts, right? You may be, even when I'm speaking, you may be thinking, oh, what am I going to eat for lunch? Or what did I do yesterday, etc., right? Random thoughts coming. So first, keep watching what's happening, okay? Then concentrate on the gap between, oh, what happened? Oh, I just thought about the food I'm going to eat, and then oh, that mistake I made yesterday and all that, right? But there's a gap between them. Do that, right? That's the second step. But the second step is, I am watching. You are the witness. Now comes the third step, most difficult. Drop the I. Drop the I. Just, there's a thought and there's a witness. No difference between them. You're in bliss then. It's like, you're going on a hike, right? So I remember, I went on Mount St. Helens on the top. some other people may have gone. So you go on the top, it's very difficult, right? Treacherous, right? But you go on the top of the volcano and you say, wow, okay? You don't say, I am watching, I am liking. There is a watching and period. That's bliss. How can we get to that bliss all the time? That's what they talk about, Satchidanand. That's the bliss. Can we get to that? Not easy. It's difficult. Sitting on a chair is very difficult. Yeah, going to Mount St. Helens is easy.
Excellent. Let's take our fourth question from the friendly house. Go ahead.
Before. So Harsh, you've read very widely over your life, and
I'm a little hard of hearing.
I said you've read very widely
Okay,
over your life.
thank you.
And usually we don't grow unless we change. So I'm curious, of so many books, not what are your favorite, which two, three if two is too hard, have made you change your view the most?
What's the last question?
Which books have made you change your view the most?
Oh, the view. Okay.
Before reading to after.
I've had, high school, I read, Bertrand Russell's book, Why I'm Not a Christian. That changed my view forever. That day and today, I haven't believed in anything. I either know or I don't know. So that changed. It's not a religious book. It's actually an irreligious book, right? But then, in my case, J. Krishnamurti was very important. His book, Freedom from the Known, not only freedom from the scriptures, but freedom from our past. How do I free yourself from the past, my own past? It's very difficult, but he talks about that. And not many people like it, but Rajneesh played a very, very important part in my development personally. And obviously, the Upanishads have played a part. I have read and reread the Upanishad books, the Indian books. Does that answer the question? In my case.
There's only one right answer.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the friendly house? Go ahead, Mike.
How does India's caste system play into the Hindu religion?
Yeah, that question was to come. Yeah, I knew that. World over, there is a hierarchy in the social structure, right? Caste is a social structure hierarchy. Ironically, India is the only country. They don't say it's social, it says religious. Okay? Because, Hindus have a caste. So since the question has been asked, I'll give you a little bit of history. Okay? We talked about the oldest religious book in the world, and of course for Hindus, is called Rig Veda. Okay? I'm going to tell you how it started. There is a chapter in it called Purush chapter. Every chapter has a name. It's a Purush chapter. And Purush is, in the colloquial language, it's man. Okay, but this is a primordial being, was the Purush in case of Veda. And it says that from this primordial being, from the mouth, came the Brahmans, the priestly classes. From their arm came the warrior classes. Okay, from their thighs came the Vaishya or the business, classes. And from their feet came the last class, the Shudra class. Okay. It does not say that there is a hierarchy, that one is better than the other. Okay. And it doesn't say that it's based on birth. Okay. But with time, things change. Because, olden days, a boy did what the father did, right? They took the same skills and followed that. And so it became part of, you're born in a sweeper class. So you remain a sweeper, okay, and etc. Vice versa. So it's changed, but it's more of a social. The religion doesn't say that. Religion doesn't say there's a hierarchy. Religion doesn't say that it's based on birth. But socially, it's become. Yeah, but it is true. Socially, there is a hierarchy now. And ironically, sometimes you can know from the last name which caste somebody comes from. A lot of people are changing their last name to hide that, and that's great. I wish I could. I did that also. Yeah.
Let's take our next question at the Friendly House. Question number 5.
Yes. So you talked about how Hindus welcome other religions into India, and Hinduism itself has many different parts. How respectful are the Hindus concerning other religions? For example, I think of the U.S. as having a separation between church and state, but in some places, the religion can be very dominant. For example, I'm a member of a nonprofit organization that has a high proportion of Christians, and they use a lot of Christian prayer in opening the meetings and all that. How dominant is Hinduism on the minorities within India?
Not at all. I don't think so. You will think Hindus are stupid when I tell you a couple of things, okay? In India, maybe the only country where the predominant religion doesn't manage their own temples, but the minority do. Okay? So the Hindu temples are managed by the state, while churches and mosques and all are managed by their own people. And I think Hindus are stupid for doing that. Okay? A Hindu-run education institution has to keep some block of students for minorities. But a Christian-run school or Muslim-run, no. They can have 100% Muslims, 100% Christian. That's the law. How stupid Hindus are.
Let's take question number 6 from the Friendly House. Go ahead.
My understanding is that in the part of the world where Hinduism has existed, it is as certain that there will be reincarnation as it is certain the sun will rise and set. Why do you think that is?
Is the question about reincarnation as a concept? Yeah. Well, I haven't died yet, so I can't answer if there is a reincarnation. No. But I'm going to answer that from the guy Schrodinger. You remember Schrodinger, who got Nobel Prize for that Schrodinger equations for the quantum waveforms, right? He's written a book called My View of Life. And most of the book is about Vedanta, the Hindu philosophy, Vedanta. He talks about reincarnation from a technical point of view, from him, being a physicist, Nobel laureate. I respect what he wrote. He didn't prove it, but I'm going to tell you what he writes very well. He first gives an analogy of driving. When we first learn to drive, okay, we are very cautious when to change the gear, how much to turn, etc. And after years of driving, it becomes a rote. I can talk to my wife while I'm driving, I can listen to music, etc. Right? Becomes. He says that, the old species, the young species, like we were millions of generations ago, we had to eat food and work to digest food. And then it became so rote that, now food digests easily. Those species also, when they had blood, they had to work to flow the blood, pump the blood. Now we have heart. We don't even come to know it happened, okay? So he says that as we do things, so he says there is universal consciousness, like the Hindus say, universal consciousness. That consciousness disassociates itself from universal and becomes part of our, okay? And that gives us experience, okay? All right? Experience. If I smell the rose, I smell it, right? That experience it gets. And whatever I do in life, whatever I do passes on after my death, because I'm consciousness, from disassociated personal consciousness to universal person. And that's how what we do passes on from one generation to the other. That's reincarnation. So reincarnation is the wrong word. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so carnate, I don't want to use the word rebirth, okay? The rebirth. And body doesn't rebirth, mind doesn't, consciousness does. So reincarnation, or equivalent of that, is consciousness. That is where what I have done in my life moves from one generation to the other. That's what Schrodinger is saying. Hindu books don't say that. There's no proof in it. But that's what Schrodinger said. And I think he was a genius, and I like that reasoning. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to our final three questions. The first one I'm going to read out over Zoom. It comes from Gretchen. If the religious guidance choices of individuals are regarded as legitimate, how are the actions of people who choose to follow and emulate the destructive elements, Daruga, for example, treated?
No, I didn't follow that.
I think that you mean Durga, not Daruga.
In Durga, yeah.
Oh,
No.
So the destructive elements, you mentioned pluralism in Hinduism and being able to pick and choose different elements.
Right.
So if someone follows just the destructive elements, how would they be treated?
Oh, destructively, meaning Durga.
Durga.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of destructive elements in the world, right? And that Durga and Kali are two goddesses. If you look at them, they look bad and all that, okay? And the Vivekananda was a very big Hindu saint or seer. And his guru was a Kali Bhakt, a big Kali Bhakt. Kali, the goddess, and Bhakt is the devotee. And he saw God in that. God in Kali. He saw God in Durga. And in fact, Vivekananda went to a lot of people. He was asking, have you seen God? Have you seen God? And people said, no, no, no. You know. And when he went to this guru of his, finally, he said, have you seen God? I said, yeah, I've seen God. His guru said. So he said, show me. He said, well, are you ready to see God? I want to prepare you to see God. Okay? And that preparation of God element of Durga or Kali versus that of maybe Vishnu or Ram or, the good guys, is where it's all in us. It's all in us. It's within us how we want to view the God. As I said, did I say that? If a person goes in front of an idol and standing there, and he looks at the statue or the idol of the God, if he is doing it with his body, his, the servant, mind, or with consciousness, that part is within us. There are parts of badness within us. Okay, and that's what you can see in that, right? You can so it's idol is just a mirror. So whether it's Durga, whether it's Kali, it's a mirror. You see yourself in it. You're part of it. And sometimes Durga lets you see the negative part of yourself. It doesn't matter what Durga is, that's secondary. Main thing is me. What's in me? And what am I getting out of all this? That would be the closest answer.
So the common, when people go to worship Durga, is basically killing the demon,
supposedly.
and same with Kali. So they are goddesses that are getting rid of the negativity in whether it's
In the world.
or not. So they are not by themselves bad. Yeah. They're basically getting rid of.
Let's go to question number 7 at the front of the house. Joyce, I think too.
What's mine?
Yeah.
I can respect contradiction. Contradiction is everywhere, I guess. But how did Hindus resolve the contradiction that we are a welcoming religion, we welcome converts, but we will not welcome someone who has left the religion and wants to come back, or left the philosophy and wants to come back?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it also. I think they should be welcomed, and they are being welcomed now. The creator of Pakistan, okay, his grandfather was actually Hindu, okay, and he became Muslim because he was a fisherman, and he's catching fish, and he was getting because most of the Hindus are vegetarians, and they didn't like a Hindu doing this fish, business, so he converted to Muslim. But after some time, he said, "No, I want to be a Hindu." No, I said, "No, you're gone now. You'll never be." And his grandson created Pakistan for India. Problem. So I think it is wrong, and why not? Why not bring it? So and things are changing. Lot of people. There is a organization now in India, Sangam Talks, they call themselves, who are encouraging and actually pumping money to bring others into the Hindu fold.
There actually is a second part to that question. If I decide I'm a Hindu, what's to keep me from being a Hindu?
If you're a Hindu.
But if it's my choice, I say I'm a Hindu.
Yeah.
So I am.
So you are. Yeah. The problem comes in the name. So, for example, I'll tell you an incident. Sorry. There is a Muslim woman, okay, who wanted to be a Hindu and couldn't. And in her will, when she died, she said, "I want to be cremated. I don't want to be buried. So it's because Hindus cremate and Muslims bury." Her name is Muslim. The kids took her to different cremation ground. They won't accept. They won't burn her. They won't cremate her because her name is Muslim. They say, "We'll be in trouble." So say you have to change the name. If you change the name, yes. Who knows, right? Because Muslims have different names. They had hard time cremating their mom to her will. I think they were able to do it, but the name comes in the picture.
Okay, we'll take A final question. It's again from Gretchen. I'm going to just read it out. Does the emphasis on submission and the importance of madrasa religious memorization as education one reason that Muslims might not get so far as other citizens in secular education and wealth?
Yeah, India has one of the largest number of madrasas in the world. So as the Muslims don't have that much money, and these madrasas are free, most of the money was coming from either Saudi Arabia or Qatar into India, and they were forming it. And there are thousands and thousands of madrasas, and it's free education, but they don't educate them on sciences and mathematics. It's the religion. And now things are changing. In some states, they say, well, no. You got to teach physics, chemistry, math, along with religion, if you're doing that. But yeah, that has not only that, I think some of the terrorists have come out of madrasas because they don't know anything else. They don't know what, I mean, how do you apply the religious education in the world? So yeah, I agree.
Excellent. All right. So once again, give Harsh a massive thank you for his presentation.